All right, July 24th, 2025, Trump has signed an executive order reportedly to make it easier to remove homeless people from the streets. They're calling it the Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets executive order. And to address this and to talk about this a little bit, I want to just bring a guest on here. So Quinn, let's talk about it. What does this executive order say, or how does it change our approach to homelessness in the United States?
It flips the script entirely. Instead of housing first, it pushes treatment first, often involuntary. It links homelessness with public danger and basically rewards cities that criminalize things like camping, loitering, and drug use. It slashes support for harm reduction, guts housing first programs, and encourages civil commitment, meaning locking people up in treatment facilities if they're seen as unable to care for themselves.
So it helps criminalize homelessness, and it takes away funds for things like housing for the homeless. Does it give states and cities new funding for treatment of drug addiction, for training and support programs to support people who are unhoused?
Not really. It redirects existing funds, no major new funding streams. It prioritizes grants for states that crack down on encampments and force treatment. But there's no big investment in building treatment centers or support networks. It's more about shifting money toward enforcement and control, not expanding care.
But what does it say? What does the research say about what works in addressing homelessness? Does the research say that we're better off doing treatment first, or does it say we should do housing first?
The research is overwhelmingly clear. Housing first works better. Studies from the US, Canada, and Europe show that when people get stable housing first, they're far more likely to stick with treatment, stay out of jail, and avoid ER visits. Treatment without housing. It rarely works long term. People cycle right back onto the streets.
So why would an administration want to ignore the research and take this kind of approach that just focuses on criminalizing being unhoused?
Because it looks tough, fast, and simple. It appeals to voters who want visible homelessness gone now. It's a political move, less about solving the problem, more about cleaning up the optics. It's easier to blame individuals than to fix systems like housing, healthcare, and wages.
So what you're saying is that it plays well in the news cycle, that it energizes the base, that it gives many people what they want to hear, while not really making meaningful progress to solve the problem.
Exactly. It's policy as performance. Headline friendly but hollow. It gives the illusion of action, but it doesn't address root causes like poverty, trauma, or the affordable housing crisis. It moves people out of sight, not into stability.
How does this compare to steps that the previous administration had taken to address homelessness in the United States?
The Biden administration backed the Housing First model and boosted funding for affordable housing and supportive services. They focused on voluntary access to treatment, expanding rental assistance, and reducing veteran homelessness. It wasn't perfect, but it followed the data and aimed for long-term stability, not criminalization.
What about those who would say that we aren't doing enough to just make it voluntary, that when it comes to truly addressing issues of homelessness, helping people who are unhoused, that you can't only focus on helping those who want to be helped, that's to some degree it has to be involuntary help that we're giving?
That's a fair concern. And it's true that some people resist help, often because of trauma, distrust, or mental illness. But forcing treatment without building trust or offering housing usually backfires. It may get someone off the street for a minute, but without stability and dignity, they end up right back there. Real help needs to be both compassionate and persistent, not coercive.
And when did things really change? Because wasn't there a time in U.S. history when homelessness was much lower, when treatment programs, support programs were mandatory, and then something changed? When did that? When was there a major shift?
Yeah, the big shift came in the late 70s and early 80s. That's when the US started deinstitutionalizing mental health care, closing large psychiatric hospitals without building enough community-based alternatives. At the same time, Reagan slashed federal funding for affordable housing. That double whammy, less treatment, less housing, triggered the modern homelessness crisis we're still dealing with today.
And so then this is where we are today. An executive order titled Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets that is encouraging, rewarding, empowering cities and states to take people off the streets, whether they like it or not, whether they want it or not, and prioritizing quote treatment over housing, saying don't house them first, just treat them first, but yet not really providing any new or meaningful funding to support any kind of treatment.
That's exactly it. It shifts blame to the unhoused, promotes forced treatment without real investment, and sidelines proven strategies. It calls itself compassionate, but what it really does is criminalize survival while offering no scalable path out of homelessness. It's punishment dressed up as policy.
Well, and wouldn't you say that we've now got another layer added with the current administration's steps that they've taken to go back to the courts and reverse the Biden administration's rule that was put in place that prevented medical debt from going on your credit reports? With medical debt now going back on credit reports, doesn't that increase the likelihood that someone could end up homeless because their credit has been affected by medical debt and therefore now they can't qualify to rent an apartment or to get a mortgage?
Yes, exactly. That rule reversal adds fuel to the fire. When medical debt tanks someone's credit, it shuts them out of housing options entirely. No lease, no loan, nothing. So now you've got a system that penalizes people for getting sick and then blames them when they end up on the street. It's a trap, not a safety net.
Well, Quinn, thank you for joining us for those answers. So, I guess this is another example of why it's important to go deeper than just what the soundbite and the headline is. To not accept sound bites being passed off to us as meaningful, useful policy. We've got to dig deeper. We've got to try to hold our leaders accountable. And right now, that means pointing to Republicans in Congress who are supporting all of these actions.